So I'll say two things. I'll back up and just, one of the things that we talk about in the research is this idea that salespeople, you've got to beat the status quo. If you don't show the customer that it's worth moving ahead and it's changing what they do today, you're not selling anything. Yeah. So that it all starts there. But once we beat the status quo, the second thing we need to do is overcome their indecision, instill the confidence or the sense that they can do this, and they're making a great choice, and they've done enough homework, and we've got your back. We're not going to leave you, holding the bag. We've got your back. Things are not going to go sideways. You're going to look like a hero, not like a fool. And to do that, beating the status quo is all about showing the customer the, if you will, dialing up the fear of not purchasing. But overcoming indecision is all about dialing down the fear of purchasing. Now, you hit on this one, again, one of the three sources of indecisions. I haven't done enough research, and I need to consume all this content, which is, of course, impossible, but it doesn't stop customers from wanting to try. And what we find is that average performing salespeople, when the customer asks for more and more content, they feed the beast, right? They give them more and more. And that looks good, right? Because those are activities I can check off in the CRM system. Oh, I set up another demo. Oh, I set up another reference call. Oh, I signed them up for this webinar. I sent them that white paper. It feels like the customer's making progress. They're interested, right? They're serious. They're moving forward, and that's a good thing. But what we know is that if all we do is indulge those information requests, we actually help feed analysis paralysis on the part of the customer, and they start getting wrapped around the axle and they end up doing nothing. But the salespeople who can actually limit the exploration and get the customer to stop doing research and trust them to guide them to a good decision, those people sell way more than those salespeople who just indulge customers' continuing information requests. Now, how do you do it? What you don't do is Jedi mind trick the customer, try to, and say, Nick, you don't need to read that Gartner Magic Quadrant. That's not the information you're looking for, right? That stuff doesn't work in sales. So what do we have to do? Well, it's an age-old concept in sales, but what we need to do is position ourselves as a trusted advisor to the customer. Think about, Nick, if you were going to visit a country you'd never been to before, a part of the world you'd never been to, taking your family on a vacation. And what you're really looking for is not to read all the content in the world to become an expert on that part of the world, that country, where to stay, what to do, what activities to do, what not to do, what to watch out for. You can't, right? There's too many posts on TripAdvisor. There's too many blogs. There's too much content. What you really are looking for is a travel agent. You're looking for somebody who's been there themselves, set up many trips for other travelers, who've raved about the experience they've had and understands what you're looking for. And you can let yourself kind of relax and say, I don't need to consume all this information. I'm in good hands. Now, how does a salesperson do that? There's sort of two angles here. I think one is, again, this age-old concept of becoming a trusted advisor. On the one hand, we've got to instill trust. From the beginning of the sales process, the customer doesn't trust us because they know we have all the information and they have very little. We know which customers hate us. We know what stuff doesn't work in our product. We know the fact versus the fiction when we talk about the features and benefits. We know all the partner integrations that actually don't really pay off. We know where the bodies are buried. We know where the pitfalls are. We don't share a lot of that with the customer, and that's what the customer's worried about. They're worried about the salesperson's incentivized to oversell me, to sell me stuff I don't need, and to hide the ball on potentially bad news. And so there are things we can do to create that trust with the customer. Tell them what not to buy. Encourage them to start small. Tell them the things that don't actually work out. This partner integration, I know it sounds great. It's not really ready for prime time. And how about this one? Point out places where your competitors are actually better than you are on things the customer talks about. Hey, Nick, if that's what you guys are really trying to solve for, I got to tell you, we are not the best in the market at that. In fact, our competitor is. I know people over there would be happy to introduce you, but what we specialize is on X, Y, and Z. They specialize on A, B, and C. And it sounds like you might be more interested in A, B, and C. Can you help me out there? Am I misreading the situation? But that kind of candor, not trying to oversell the customer, really does help build that trust with the customer. Now, once you've done that, how do you get them to trust you as an expert? Well, to do that, you got to be an expert, right? And the way great salespeople do this is they do their own demos. They don't bring the clown car of subject matter experts onto the call, the solutions engineer, the product people, the executive sponsors, the customer success managers. They don't overly rely on other people to do the job of selling. They do it themselves. And when they do bring in experts, they limit their role in the sales call, because what they're trying to avoid is being delegated down to the person they sound like. And if your only value to the customer is that you're a glorified admin, that I can get the really smart people like Nick on the phone who can answer all your questions about the product, but I can't actually answer them. Well, if you're a customer being sold to by a salesperson that you don't think knows what they're talking about, you're going to do more research on your own, right? And then there's other things we can do as well. We can anticipate needs and objections. We can even introduce objections the customer hasn't articulated. Customers like you often ask this question. I know you haven't asked this yet, but I want to share this with you in case it comes up in your discussions internally. Let's get that on the table. Let's talk about it. It shows the customer that you've sold this solution to customers just like them many times before. Again, they're dealing not with a salesperson, they're dealing with a buyer's agent, a travel agent who's guiding them to making a great decision. When I'm talking to that kind of person who I know is a good steward of my budget and my time, who's not trying to oversell me, not trying to hide the ball on bad news, perfectly candid, and I know that they know a lot more than I do about the decision I'm being asked to make, I don't need to do my own research. In that world, I trust you, Nick, to guide me to the finish line and help me make a great decision.